All right. Welcome back. This is week 13 of the Feel for the Game podcast, and we are going to do a new segment to start off this podcast for this week. We're going to do our raw reaction to the release of the college football playoff rankings. They are coming out right now as we are speaking. We have it pulled up on our TV in the recording room that we're in, and we're just going to play it. We're going to turn the volume off so you don't have to hear the overlay between us trying to talk and the playoff release being announced. So we're just going to watch it and kind of talk about what we're seeing. And we're going to compare it to our top 25s that we have currently built ourselves. And then we will typically release during the week on our Instagram and on our YouTube. So we'll talk about like maybe the differences between the teams that we have higher up or lower down, and then vice versa for the playoff committee. And maybe even talk a little bit about the AP poll, which is not too far off from the college football playoff polls we've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean they've been what the AP's been doing is pretty much just copying the college football playoff poll because I mean everybody knows those people know nothing about what they're doing. I mean they basically just copy each other and just whatever they can find. So not shocking there.
Yeah, I genuinely think there's a really solid chance that the AP poll voters watch these rankings come out after the whole season voting and doing their polls, and then they immediately pivot and start to adapt to what the college football playoff top 25 is. Because you can imagine what would happen if the AP poll was drastically different on some of the top, maybe 14 teams, or maybe the group of five teams, and then the playoff selection committee rolls around and the final rankings are released. And let's say James Madison's ranked like 27th in the AP ballot, but the college football playoff has him at like 19. Something crazy like that were to happen. And then you've got a completely different team getting in as the last seed in the playoff. Well, that's going to raise a lot of controversy. Why even have the AP poll? Or what are they seeing that's so much different between the AP poll and the college football playoff poll? Which I think is there's already stuff that's been shown from the playoff committee that they think is more important this year. Strength of schedule, strength of record, and head to head is not as important. So watching those key metrics as they release this poll each week has been something that has been interesting for me. Just trying to get a good idea of what the committee values and what they maybe don't value as much this year.
One poll that don't care is the coaches poll.
Yeah, the coaches poll
If you
is
look at the back
hilarious.
end of the coaches poll, you can find some crazy stuff week to week.
Yeah, it changes a lot, and I've always kind of liked the coaches poll, but typically when I think that they're favoring my favorite teams, I'll like them a lot more. And then if they start to kind of get down on some of those teams, I don't really look at it as much. So there's a little bit of bias factored in there. But I think the coaches poll is usually pretty sound. It's not the best. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense to me, but it's not too far off from the AP poll either in the top half. It usually stays pretty consistent. I just don't know why we have to have all these different rankings. Like, I really wish that they could have a consistent release of the rankings every single week. I don't see why from week one we can't start with this. Like, I know that it has nothing to do with the playoffs, and it'd be kind of just it would get repetitive maybe. So I'm sure for viewership that's part of it. They don't want to be repetitive, but I think we should have the same committee maybe reveal a top 25 from the start of the season so it stays continual. We know what they're valuing as the season progresses, so they can't flip flop. I think they're kind of protecting themselves by waiting until like week 9 to release their first rankings.
Just give some time to watch everything and make sure that they have a good feel on it.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I understand. Like, if you looked at our top 25s from just like 2 weeks ago and then completely forgot the previous 8 weeks of us doing these, it'd make us look a lot better for sure. Not that that really matters, but at the end of the day, I think if you saw the playoff committee release their rankings from the get go instead of the AP poll, there would be a lot more talk about maybe what they could be doing better. So I think there's probably a really good reason why they're doing it the way they do. But as a fan, I'd like more transparency. I'd like to see them have a consistent ranking throughout the whole season. I think that would be good for the sport.
I think we need a really good computer model to come take over for the AP poll.
I wouldn't hate
Just
that.
a really good one that like factors in everything you can imagine.
It's just at the end of the day, there's got to be a human element. If there's not a human element in control, then people get really frustrated with things like that.
Well, once it
So
comes to the playoff committee, it would be human. But like as far as like before that, like
I don't hate that. I guess you could take all the metrics that the playoff committee values and kind of rank them in priority. and you could turn it into instead of using the FPI, which is complete
Oh
garbage for
man.
ranking teams, it's garbage. They could use something else instead with the metrics that they actually care about. So I think that would be really interesting. But I mean, with how the seeding is this year, like they're talking about that right now before they release these rankings, it took me a minute to kind of catch on to how this plays out. I think it initially when we did the first week for this, I wasn't really sure how like the bottom seeds figured in, like in the conference championship ordering. I didn't realize that they ranked the top five conference champions as automatic bids, and then they determine their seeding based off of like what they're actually ranked. I didn't realize that, and so that changes a lot. I mean, with the ACC and how they were playing in the Big 12, we just didn't know who was going to shake out. So we didn't know how that would end. That definitely would change a lot if chaos had continued to ensue. So they just released their bottom five, 21 through 25.
All these teams were unranked last week.
So I already have a problem with this.
Oh,
They're releasing these
they're going
fast.
freaking fast.
So we're gonna have to do a speed reaction to this. I say you just let it go ahead and go through, and we can react to it after we've seen everything.
I
Because
mean, we got Arizona State at 25, and then Tulane at 24, Houston's at 23, Missouri at 22, and then Illinois at 21.
yeah, I don't like Illinois getting that high up in this poll. I
That's
think that's
weird. And
ridiculous.
Tulane being back, I don't know about that either.
So they dropped James Madison out of the poll.
James Madison's never in.
I'm thinking the AP poll. Okay, so that's interesting. That says a lot.
I'm surprised North Texas didn't make it.
North Texas not been. I think they're saying that Tulane would be favored against them in the conference championship, and they
I mean,
think
that puts
Tulane.
Tulane as the G5 rep right now.
Yeah, I think North Texas would beat Tulane.
Me too.
I would take North Texas, but Tulane's been playing better. I just that their two losses are not good losses. Like they got blown out by Ole Miss and UTSA.
What has Illinois done to jump to 21?
I genuinely couldn't tell you.
They haven't been doing. And why not Arizona instead of Arizona State at 25?
Yeah, so Arizona has ranked wins, and their starting quarterback is not injured. So I have a hard time seeing why they have Arizona State ranked over
Well,
Arizona.
the Texas Tech win does just keep getting better, but
That does, but I mean that's when they had Sam Levitt. They're a different football team now, and I just don't really see that changing. Jeff Sims has been playing better though, so
yeah, they've figured out how to utilize him.
which I never thought I'd be able to say that. But
No.
after 6 years of been playing college football, he's starting to play decent. Okay, so the next section, 16 through 20, they've got Georgia Tech at 16. They dropped Texas down 7 spots to 17. Personally, I think Texas could be lower. I have Texas at 19. I feel like you can move them down. I don't like a three-loss team being ahead of um, several two-loss teams in Michigan and Virginia. But if you look at similar games, Texas whooped Oklahoma and Michigan lost to Oklahoma. So, I mean, you could argue that Michigan probably should be ranked below Texas. And Virginia really hasn't played that many good teams. So they're really valuing strength of record here.
How much did Tennessee move up being at 20?
3 spots.
3 spots.
I have Tennessee at 23.
I have them at 20, actually, yeah.
Not too much variance there.
I had Texas at 18, Virginia at 19. I actually have Michigan at 17.
I have Houston up there too. I put Houston at 21 and SMU at 20.
I got Houston at 23, SMU 22.
I think you got to give SMU some cred over Tennessee because they actually have ranked wins. Tennessee's biggest win is still Mississippi State.
Is that actually their best win right now?
I think so. Because they beat Kentucky since then, and I think they had one other SEC win that was.
Kentucky on the road is probably their best win now.
That's probably fair. Kentucky's been playing better football. But I just have a hard time seeing SMU with a win against Miami not being up here. And, I mean, they're one overtime loss away from beating Baylor in the non-conference, which would have helped.
All right, USC slotted in at 15.
That's not too far from me. I've got them at 15.
I've got them at 14.
I agree with that. I think that's a great spot for USC. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Where's Miami going to be at?
Probably right above them.
I bet they're 14.
They're going to keep moving. I think they're trying to sneak Miami up there.
Oh.
Yeah, there's Vanderbilt's
team. Miami's going to be top 13.
Yeah, I've got Vanderbilt at 12. I think I'd take Vanderbilt against several of these teams. So that's really interesting. They didn't move them at all, but Vanderbilt had a bye week. So
okay, number 13 is Miami. Yeah.
So Miami moves up from 15 to 13. I have Miami at 16. behind USC, Utah, Georgia Tech, and
I've
Vanderbilt.
got them at 15. They're just trying to creep them up to Notre Dame so that plays itself out.
Yeah, I think they want to see them play again, which, to be completely honest, I think wouldn't be the most unfair thing because what really would bother me is if Miami gets left out and Notre Dame gets in. Miami probably could beat Notre Dame if they play a neutral side again.
I would pick Notre Dame every single time now.
If Notre Dame had them in
Late
South
season
Bend, I think they
Miami
could beat
though,
them.
late season Miami sucks.
Yeah, they're not clutch. We've learned this. And like we were talking about in our previous podcasts, like Mario Cristobal coach teams, like I just don't trust them. I have a hard time picking Miami in any
Never
meaningful
trust
games.
Mario.
Utah coming in at number 12, they go up one spot.
I got them at 12 as well.
I have them at 14, so I'm pretty close. BYU at 11, I match up with that. I got
I got
BYU
them there
at
too.
11.
Alabama's gonna be number 10.
Yeah, I feel good about that. I've got Notre Dame just slightly above Bama right now.
What if they have Notre Dame at 10 to set up Miami passing them?
See, I don't hate that because you look at Alabama's strength of record, it's pretty
Nope.
good.
Bama's
But
10. Yeah.
Bama dropped 6 spots for a 2 point loss at home against Oklahoma. So I want to know where they're going to put OU. That actually that matters a lot.
It's gonna be 8.
That's where I've got them. I think that makes the most sense because you look at the wins they have against the wins that Notre Dame has. Notre Dame has taken care of business week in and week out since those first two losses of the season, but OU's had some big statement wins. Beating Alabama and Texas, I mean, neither of those being home games, those are huge wins. So you got to give Oklahoma credit there. So yeah, here comes Notre Dame at 9, which is where we both have them. Right now, we are 3 for 3 matching up with the college football playoff top 12.
What did you say? Oklahoma beating Texas?
Sorry, I did say that. That's ridiculous.
Who's their other? They beat somebody else. They beat Michigan at home.
Yeah. I don't know why I got those switched up.
Yeah.
Texas shellacked Oklahoma.
That game was just an anomaly from this year.
Yeah, that was not a great game. I think injury John Mateer really factored into that one.
You think there's a chance that Oklahoma's above Oregon right now?
They shouldn't be, but there's a real chance that they could move them up. Okay, so yeah, here they
Yeah.
come at 8.
Yeah,
They move up
number
3
8.
spots. I didn't realize they had them at 11 previously. That really isn't too big of a jump for them. They value that Alabama win a lot. You look at Alabama's wins. I mean, they have 4 wins against teams currently in the college football playoff top 25, with Georgia, who's ranked several spots ahead of them. So it's a really big win for Alabama to hang their hat on. And they would have to lose in the Iron Bowl to miss the playoff at this point. I think a loss in the SEC championship, they still make it in if they were to go to the SEC championship.
Auburn's going to win the Iron Bowl.
We're going to have to talk about that more as we move on. I think that game's sketchy.
Oregon 7.
Yep, I got them at 7 too.
Yep.
I feel good about that.
They're just copying our poll.
I think I'm going to differ on this one here in a second, but I can explain why this would be the way that it is. I almost agree with them, but
My 3 through 6 is a little different than, or actually no, 4 through 6 is a little different than what I've seen out of some people's polls. So
yeah, they're probably going to have Ole Miss coming in at 6 here, if I had to guess. Yeah, there's Ole Miss. They move us up 1 spot. That's not bad. I have Ole Miss at 5 over Texas Tech right now. And that's solely because we've got wins on the road at OU and we've got LSU at home. That's a good win. We crushed Tulane in the non-conference.
that's a ranked win now.
Yeah, I just don't know how I feel about Texas Tech and the schedule that they played. They're valuing the fact that they're probably going to win their conference championship game because they're going to be favored against BYU in a rematch, probably by at least 10 to 13 points. So, assuming they finish 12-1 with the conference championship under their belt, they'll probably be in the top 4 of the 5. Which I think is what they're trying to sneak them in there to do. Because let's say Alabama finishes 10-3, is that losing SEC championship team, then I think they probably would bump Texas Tech significantly over Bama. Which I guess they're still hanging out way down there. They wouldn't be able to move up. Georgia comes in at 4. So that is interesting. They didn't swap Texas Tech and Georgia.
So we're gonna have A&M, Indiana, at Ohio State. I'm sure no change up there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that really want A&M to move up.
Well,
I'm not even taking this performance as a reason to not move them up. I just think that you look at Indiana's body of work and they've done everything and more that A&M is. A&M's schedule is not near as good as they're making it out to be. I think Indiana's played outside of the non-con, a pretty comparable schedule. to Texas A&M.
So
Ohio
this,
State clearly being number one makes the most sense.
yeah, Indiana still at 2.
I think there's a huge drop off once you get past the top four right now for me. Georgia's been playing so well. I have a really hard time seeing them losing many more football games against anybody within probably a couple spots of them. Like if they were to play in the playoff right now as the 4 seed in this setup, they're probably playing Texas Tech in the quarterfinals. I think they beat Texas Tech. I think it's a great matchup. I think they beat them.
I
And
think they
they
do
would
too.
move on to the semifinals, and they're probably playing Ohio State. I think they can beat Ohio State. I think they're one of the few teams, maybe 2 or 3 teams that have a shot to beat Ohio State.
I don't know about Ohio State because they haven't really been tested since week 1, and then I mean we've seen Texas is not great. Like
Yeah. I mean, and both those teams have changed so much since week one. Week one is it's really hard to profile teams from matchups in week one. I really do feel like Georgia has come a long way offensively, and defense is shaping up. I mean,
yeah, they're getting hot at the right time for
they
sure.
really
Unlike
are.
last year,
They are schematically picking apart teams week by week. Like if you look at their performances against Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Texas as of late, since the Alabama game, they've been on one. They're playing great offensive football, and their defense is stepping up. 10 points against Texas is pretty good, considering how Texas has played offensively. They've been playing better. They were trending up, and Georgia just completely shuts them down. So I've been thoroughly impressed with Georgia. They've got probably the two best wins right now in the SEC outside of maybe Oklahoma and Bama's wins. They've got the win against Ole Miss, and they got the win against Oklahoma. That's two top 10 wins. So I said Oklahoma. They haven't played Oklahoma. They got the win against Ole Miss, and then they've got the win against Texas. Um, I think both of those are really solid wins considering how they won those games. And those comeback wins early in the season, people haven't been talking about those much anymore. I think because the character of this team has tightened up a lot. I think Georgia's changed the composure of their team throughout the season, which is characteristic of Kirby Smart coach football teams. They're good. So I have some faith in them down the stretch.
so the matchups we'd be getting if this field was to happen would be Tulane traveling to Texas Tech to for the winner of that game to take on Georgia, and then Notre Dame going to Norman, play Oklahoma. The winner plays Ohio State, and then Miami going to Ole Miss, and the winner of that plays A&M, and then Alabama going to Oregon, and the winner of that plays Indiana.
Okay, so are they saying that Miami?
That's what I was about to say. See, they're giving Miami the ACC bid in this because they're the highest ranked team, but they're probably out. I mean, they have like no chance to make the ACC championship.
Ranked conference champions. I thought that
It is, and they're probably not going to make the conference championship, so they're probably going to be at large.
so they're saying
If
that
they
an
make
ACC champion would miss in this scenario
no, they're taking the highest ranked ACC team
instead.
instead of taking the team that's probably going to be in the championship, which is Georgia Tech, who's at
That's what's
16.
confusing to me, and I haven't spent a lot of time looking at the playoff bracket and the way that they put these teams in at the bottom. And that's what we were talking about a minute ago before they released it, is that I was still kind of confused on that.
That would clip Miami out though, if you were to go by that.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand is that technically Miami's an at-large team with where they're ranked. They're outside of the top 12 and they're not a conference champion. And Virginia and Georgia Tech most likely will be playing in the conference championship. If one of them were to lose a conference game to either Virginia Tech or Pittsburgh, I think the next teams up are SMU and like maybe Pitt or I don't know. It's not Miami.
No, because they already have 2 losses, and there's still like multiple teams with one. I think it's like it might still be 5 teams with 1 loss or something crazy like that. I can check on that for
I
us.
think it's got trimmed down since Louisville lost and
It's
Duke
4 teams with 1 loss.
So that would be Pitt, SMU, Virginia, and Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
So
And Georgia Tech and Virginia only have one more conference game, and Pitt and SMU have 2.
yeah,
So the
and
chance that Miami gets back into this is like 0.
Pitt and SMU actually have harder matchups than Virginia and Georgia Tech. I'd take Virginia against Virginia Tech all day long, and I would also take Georgia Tech against
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Which
as
is
long as they take
probably
care of
gonna be a good
business,
game.
like they'll be in.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see what happens there because doesn't Pitt have Miami and Georgia Tech to finish the season?
Yeah.
I mean, if Pitt wins both those games, I'd favor them to win the
Pitt is beating Miami.
championship. I'd favor them to win the ACC championship. So if they do beat Miami,
They
The
host it.
matchup because they have Georgia Tech this week.
They're not going to win that game at Georgia Tech, I don't think. We'll talk about that later, though.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting. I feel a little bit better about Georgia Tech pulling that one off.
And then SMU, they get Louisville at home and then go to Cal, which at Cal is kind of tricky. But
Yeah, Cal's offense has been really good. I don't trust their defense, but DeJesus is like one of my favorite players in college football right now. Sagapalute's been playing great, so you just never know what they could do. They played spoiler to Louisville already. Just never know. Yeah, then you got Miami going to Ole Miss. I would absolutely go to that game. That would be sick. Um,
but that wouldn't happen though. Is the thing with this like
well, they're not. They're saying that's the bracket. That's who would be in. That's not the rankings. Miami's not 11. They're 13.
well they're saying they would get the ACC auto bid with what they're projecting right here, but that's not.
Well, I don't think they're projecting Miami to win the ACC. I think they're projecting the ACC champion to miss and
Well, they
Miami to
are.
take their
See like
spot.
the gold on the numbers.
Yeah.
That's saying conference champion that's out.
Oh, it says must win conference. So yeah, I guess they think Miami's gonna. That's so
Well,
weird
no,
to
they're
me.
just taking it by default because they're the highest ranked. I don't know why though, because
Well, I
like
guess they can't pick a conference champion that hadn't happened yet.
they're just by default taking the highest ranked,
Yeah, okay. So when the actual selection comes out, those two spots are very open to interpretation. But right now, it's they're just filling them with the highest ranked
which means
teams.
nothing.
So yeah, those spots don't mean anything. That's what I was confused about. I guess that makes so much more sense. And then they got Alabama going to Eugene to play Oregon. I think that would be a sick game. That game profiles pretty interestingly. So
Oklahoma hosting Notre Dame would be really fun too.
I feel like that would be a really neat game solely because Notre Dame has not played a team with a defense all season.
Mm.
Like Miami's defense is solid, but they have a lot of holes. A&M has a lot of holes. Like they've proven that they can be scored on. I think that far and above OU is one of the best defenses in all of college football. So we would see exactly what Notre Dame was made of.
What do you think are the odds that Texas A&M this year is kind of like TCU a few years ago?
So you got to look at their schedule, and I remember TCU had some nail biters, like games
Against
they almost shouldn't have
mid
won.
teams.
And you look at A&M's schedule, and people have already brought this up. I've been looking at this for a couple weeks now, but with the way the season's shaped up, it looks worse for A&M and their strength of schedule because they've played basically the entire bottom half of the SEC in conference play. No ranked teams, none,
They played no ranked SEC team.
not a single one. They played Missouri, they played State, they
Well,
played
Missouri's ranked
Arkansas.
now.
Yeah, I guess the college football playoff has them ranked now, but I mean, I don't really agree with that, to be honest with you. I don't have Missouri ranked at all. I think without Bo Pribula, they don't really stand much of a chance in legitimate matchups. But they played Arkansas, Auburn, Mississippi State, Missouri.
Yeah, more than half their SEC wins are against teams at or below 500 overall.
Yeah, and they also play Texas here in a little bit, so they'll probably pick up a ranked win there. But they could lose that game in Austin too, which would be probably their biggest test of the season because it's a rivalry game at night, most likely at your rival's home stadium. Austin's not an easy place to play. Texas has only lost on the road this season, I'm pretty sure. They haven't lost a game at home. So
I don't think so.
I'd feel like that would be a really tight line, like maybe even Texas lean
I
possibly.
bet Texas is going to be favored.
I could see maybe a -1.5,
Vegas loves some
-2
Texas.
in favor of Texas. They do love Texas. So I mean, there's some interesting scenarios we could have play out. If A&M loses and think if Alabama loses the Iron Bowl, Ole Miss would need to win the Egg Bowl to make the SEC championship game, and they would play Georgia in a rematch. I would take Georgia all day long. Um, there's also a scenario where A&M loses, Alabama loses, and then Ole Miss loses. Then I think that
Gets in there.
they would end up putting in
Would it be Georgia versus A&M?
Georgia versus A&M because A&M would only have one conference loss and Alabama would have two, and the Ole Miss would have two. So Ole Miss wouldn't win the tiebreaker. Actually, I think if A&M were to lose and Ole Miss were to win, there's still a scenario where I think A&M would make it in over Ole Miss with tiebreakers. I don't know what that looks like. Actually, I say that if it has anything to do with common opponents, We have a couple, but Ole Miss has way better ranked wins in the SEC. We've played better teams in conference standings. So, like, I think they would probably look at the overall win percentage of conference teams that you played. So, like, they would average out all the teams that you played and beat in whatever their conference win percentage is. And Ole Miss clearly would be higher,
Yeah.
just given what we just talked about. So, I like the scenario most likely happening of Alabama playing A&M, but I also see Alabama and Georgia rematch being a real possibility. I don't have a ton of faith in Alabama to win the Iron Bowl now, but I just have a hard time seeing Ole Miss making it in unless chaos ensues. I feel like if chaos really does ensue, I think Ole Miss might lose the Egg Bowl.
I
Not that
mean,
those are
it could
dependent
for
on each
sure
other,
happen, but I don't know.
but just knowing Ole Miss, like with the way everything has been going lately, with the coaching conversation and just the standards being probably way too high for us and the bar being too high, we probably find a way to lose that game. But we will be there. So it'll be interesting to see either way. Like we talked about, neither of us have seen our team win an Egg Bowl. That will change next Friday. Very excited about that game. I think that pretty much does it. I don't have any huge takeaways from this poll, maybe other than who they're projecting in at that 11 and 12 seed. I think it's going to be North Texas, and I think it's probably going to be a Georgia Tech or maybe a Virginia.
I mean, I am surprised Tulane's ranked.
Yeah, I don't love that, to be honest with you. They're
It
only
has to
big
be the
games. They
two
got blown out.
wins. It's got to be the wins against Duke and Northwestern doing it.
And you got to look at that because Northwestern and Duke are barely 500 teams.
They're 5-5, both of them.
Yeah, so I don't love that. I really don't. I think there's teams like Arizona who have beaten ranked teams this season that probably deserve to be ranked. And just because they really want to rank a group of five team, they're going to do it, to set up. Because, if they have an unranked group of five team make the playoffs, that looks really bad.
That's probably all they're doing is
So I think they're
damage
just
control
free
for that.
firing Tulane as the champion and going ahead and ranking them. Because the AP poll is probably not going to be anywhere close to ranking Tulane right now. They're probably like 27 or 28.
I think Tulane's ranked in the AP poll actually.
Seriously?
They're 24. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Just like the playoff.
It's dude.
But North Texas is 22 and James Madison's 21 in the AP.
I just think that's ridiculous.
I think the AP might be better than the college football playoff poll this week.
Bottom with the group of five teams, I agree. The college football playoff top 12 is pretty solid. I agree with most of it. The only thing I don't love is them also pre-firing Texas Tech up the rankings just because they think they're going to win their conference. Conference championships matter, but at the end of the day, whoever is the better football team and has the best win should be ranked higher. End of story.
Yeah.
If Georgia and Ole Miss both get jumped by Texas Tech just because they beat BYU twice, I don't think that's fair. But if the College Football Playoff Selection Committee thinks BYU is that good of a football team, they beat them 2 times in a row, I guess they deserve to buy more. Ole Miss and Georgia. But really interesting stuff. I think we're going to continue to do this for the rest of the season as they do these projections until we get to the final selection after the SEC championship games play out. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do this year. I think we're going to get into some scenarios that were similar to last year where 3-loss teams and conference championship losers may either get left out or put in, and then it'll kind of set the bar moving forward what to expect. So, exciting stuff. Looking forward to it.